And now that we have been able to do that, let us now find a way of displaying the username of the user at this point. So to do that, we come back to editing, then it brings me back to the plus. We're going to be doing that when the screen actually opens. When the screen opens, don't forget that we have a label for the username. We have a label for the username, and another thing I want you to pay attention to is that we have stored the username of the user in the Firebase, in our real-time database, and that is where we are going to be fetching the username. That's where we're going to be fetching the username from. Now let me go ahead to show you the structure of our database again so that we have an idea of what we are doing at this point. So if you look at your database, this is your users and this is the user ID of the user. So you can see that we have the user email, the user ID and the username. So this is the same format we are going to be using to get. We are going to be getting from users, we're going to get in the property ID. From the ID we get the username property. That is, it's just like the object, the way I showed you an object the other time. What we have now is we have an object. Let me just move this up. We have user objects for the database schema now, and we have users, and inside this user we have the user ID, and inside this user ID we have the email to be equals to something, and we have the username to be equals to something, and I think we also have the user ID, if I'm not wrong, to be equals to something. So maybe this is do@gmail.com, and this is do01, and this is the like a very long value, and this curly braces close here, this other one also close here. Now this is like I've shown you before, this is a key, this is the value of that key, this is another key, this is the value of the key, this is another key, and this is the value of the key. So in fact everything you have on this side, they are all key, and everything you have on this side is the value of the key. So that is the same thing. So what we are going to be doing here is like saying that, let me just move it to the top. It's like saying we want to get the users. From the users I want to get the user ID, and from the user ID I want to get the username. And if I do this, this will give me the 201, and that's what I want to do. So from the object user I'll navigate to get property user ID. From after getting the property user ID, I'll get the property username, and that will return this username for me. So and that is what we want to do now in Thunkable. So we come back to our Thunkable application, and now that we have seen that, we can then say anytime the screen open, we want to display the username. But firstly, we have checked this if the email is valid, and the label I'm going to use to set the username is this. So I'm going to set the username text to, what am I setting it to? I'm going to say come to this object. Let's watch now, like to draw this thing, to actually come up with this users dot user id dot username. That is what we want to try and practicalize now. So we're going to come to the objects. Don't forget an object. So I'm going to be getting property. Now, the first thing, if you look at it here, I want the users. Then from the user, I'll get the user ID property. So let's go ahead now and do that. So from the users, and how do I get the users? Don't forget, I actually have a cloud variables. I said when you talk about cloud variable, you're talking about the value that you save in the database, and you can see that the actual parent of this entire data is actually the users. So I'm going to be saying cloud variables. Okay, let me just initialize it if it is not here. I will initialize the cloud variable users. Of course, it will go to my database and look for a variable that is cloud variable. And don't forget, when you are initializing your variable, you should do that at the top of your application or at the top of your implementation, so that you will not be initializing variables. You'll not be initializing one variable twice. So I'm going to be initializing this, meaning that I want to fetch whatever record that is called users from my database. So cloud variable users. So to go to my database and look for a variable that is called users. So this must be the same with this, otherwise it will not work. So having done that, I will then go ahead to say get property. The property I want to get is this cloud variable users. Get object users, and what property am I trying to get? I'm trying to get the property user ID. I think I'll still not need this, so I'll get the property user ID. So with that will give us that brought us to this level. So we then go one step further to get from whatever we get from these two combinations, we are going to be getting the username. So in order for us to be able to do that, we then go ahead to duplicate this. It's a build up, so I'll just remove this first and put this. So this is the first build up, so I'll remove this and put it in the bin, and I'll fix this. Then I zoom out, so you can see that for this now, it will get the object users, and from that object users we get the property user ID. So this is one object on its own. So this one object, I'm now making it a build up of this and that one. So from this combination, which is these two, 1 2, I want to go ahead to get the property username. So it's not user ID I need here, so I want to go ahead to get the property username, because that is actually what I need here. So I've been able to come from here, which is the cloud users, to enter the user ID, which is this. Now this is where I am currently. So what property do I need? What value do I need? The key of the value I need from here is the username. So I'll copy this exact name. Please make sure it is exactly the same, otherwise it might not work. So you can see that I have some space. Please pay attention to this space. If there is a space, it will not work. Make sure this white space is clean, otherwise it will not work. So please make sure it is clean, and that will definitely give us the username of the user. So if we go ahead to check it now, yes, you can see now that we have the username of the user displayed here. So now I think that will be all for the user dashboard page. Now I think the next page now is to go to the product details page, but don't forget I told you that we can't create a details page for all our products. The best thing to do is just to pay attention to the item that the user click on, and after that we will then use that item to populate the product details page. So we are going to be going back, so that's like, let me preview that again. Like when I click on this particular product, I should still go to the same product details page, but whatever it is that I click here should be what I'll see the product details page. So that is what we are going to be going ahead to do now, and this is very important now. So the first thing I want you to do is just to create a variable, initialize an app variable. The app variable, call it, you can call it product row object, product row object. And initially I will initialize it as an object, initialize it as an object. So please pay attention to that. Product row object, and initially should initialize it as an object.